All right, well, we, for this November, since this is the year of the election, of course, and you all know about it, you have TV and the newspaper, we decided to do a mock election to kind of see how this works in government. So this is what this conference is about, is our mock election.
And everybody likes pictures, so we have lots of pictures.
Everybody see slides.
Do you guys want to click or you want me to click?
Oh, this is good. We have some pictures too. If you guys want to talk about.
Yeah,
Turn
so
down one
pictures
light.
we're taking at the end of the day when everything's kind of winding down. This was the final picture taken.
Who got the t-shirts?
Like us. The seniors got red. The teachers got white.
The students.
The
got-
students, they wanted one.
They were all designed by one of our students, Ray. Rachel Lee
Oh, yeah.
designed all of them.
We put them up for sale and people bought. We had to buy them as seniors.
So, and this was towards the end of the process, that last slide, where they go through and just like you would at a regular film, they could get IO sticker.
Here we had it in the library, using the pictures. We had a little, we had,
The little clickers that we're using, we're gonna refer to those later in the PowerPoint as well. And they all had to register to vote as well. They filled out registration forms during class when we went and taught them about the election, and then they signed in when they went to vote. So we made sure we had every kid's vote. There's more of the stuff he does. There's more of the dividers, just cardboard dividers, pretty simple.
we had a piece of paper and this.
Had the options on.
So that you could pick up what the reflector.
We decorated the library as well, which was really neat. That was a fun experience. I don't think I do that in the real polls, but it was pretty cool here in the school. We had all sorts of decorations in here, so as you can see.
And that was the playground.
So,
All right, so these are some of the big things that we learned about. We ran this mock election. One of the big things was responsibility. We started planning for this towards like right at the beginning of the year, and it takes a lot of work to get 60 AP government students to be on the same page and actually get work done.
Yeah.
It took a lot of work. Meeting deadlines and everything.
Okay, so with the planning, there's three AP Gov group classes, and each class got a campaign manager, poster people, designers, t-shirt designers, like everything that you need for election. And at the beginning, like we had everyone working on something, and if you weren't working on something, you're helping someone else with something. There was never downtime where because it's an election, you need to get things done. So, and there's deadlines. If you don't meet the deadlines, then you're behind, and then there is a day, and you have to be ready on that day. And so we got the t-shirts design done, and that was awesome, and people liked them and bought them and wore them. It was awesome. And then when you got done with that, the people that were doing the t-shirt design helped people with the PowerPoint. It was also tricky because there's 3 different groups, so we all had like different ideas. But it also helped because all those ideas you could vote on and pick the best. So I thought it was awesome.
Just the government structure piece of it was very important and educational because both the students and the quote-unquote teachers, the senior class, learned quite a bit on how things work, like registration processes and voting and tallying votes and everything. It was a very good experience, I would say.
I thought he was coming back. The party system we also taught about. We didn't just talk about who's running in the parties today. We talked about the history of the parties, and just so the kids could get a really general idea of how that party is structured, what their beliefs are. And I'll just do the next one.
And just to clarify that, all of our AP government students went into a classroom from middle school, 6th grade, all the way up to 11th grade. So they all were responsible as a group for creating a lesson to be taught to 6th grade through 11th grade, and they did a stellar job with that. I had the opportunity to walk around during the day and see them all teaching throughout the building, and it was absolutely wonderful. I mean, a lot of the teachers that were watching them had commentary of like their naturals, but, so it was very nice to see that on the day of, they really stepped up to the plate and took it very seriously, that they were responsible for somebody else's education.
We also got to utilize technology. We got to use the clickers, which was interesting. We also got to use computers to do research. So we got to use that to our advantage for sure. And we got to learn about that and how that process works, and to tallying the percentages of voted votes and stuff. So,
All right, so how did we run it? We each pushed into multiple classrooms to teach stuff. That's kind of the broad view of it, but as a whole, we broke up into each like little separate groups of like who would do the posters and all that stuff. Yeah, there's the examples up there: scheduling, poster creation, and PowerPoint and teaching. The day before the election, we all presented to each class 6 through 11 details of the election and everything, basically the how-tos with the PowerPoints.
Yeah,
Yes.
the PowerPoint that you created, you presented that.
Why don't you explain to everybody how difficult it is to make an unbiased poster?
I happened to be on the poster committee, and it was very hard to do because there's a tiny little part of you that wants to lean this way, but then you want to lean that way, and it's very difficult to do, but we managed to get through it.
not just that, but in the pictures, we had to make sure
Yes.
that
Yeah.
we didn't have, say, American flag pin, and one not have that. It could lead to a bias that
Or having a picture of them smiling on the other one.
Getting true equality.
I just have to make a comment that I saw some of the posters, and I was really impressed with the unbiased nature of the posters. They were very factual. They talked about the candidates' positions on some of the key issues. But truly, I was going to say for student prepared work, but just on an unbiased basis, it was really well done.
Also, we thought it would take longer with the flickers because we haven't used them before. So when we actually got down to it, it took them like a task to come in and out within 15 minutes. So it didn't actually take that long for them to vote. It was a quick process, a couple questions at the beginning of how to join the classroom. But other than that, the flickers were overall a success.
So on the day of the election, students would be assigned to go pick up each class. You'd have two go pick up the class, and they escort them back to here at the polling place. And what would happen is they'd form lines, and we'd have on the desk their sign-in sheets for each class. The students would have to sign in. They begin the clicker, and they come over into the section of the library to sit down and find and vote. And after they did that, which it did take, for the first few younger kids, it would take 10 minutes maybe, but towards like the high schooler students, it moved down. They were in and out. That right after they finished, they'd follow the arrows on the ground. They'd go, they'd gather in a group, they'd get their I voted sticker, and then they'd be escorted back to class.
It was a very fluid process. Like once you got the ball rolling, gravity took care of the rest.
We expected it to take up the full time slots that we created for schedules, and by the time we got it running, they were in and out in half hours and 44 minutes.
Even the younger kids got it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
We did have a lot of arrows pointing in directions and stuff, but all in all, it helped a lot. So.
And these are going to be our results that we
Came
came
out of election. Not accurate to the actual election, but that's just what we got from the clickers. And
What's interesting is they're 2 percentage points off of the same party split from 2012. So as far as the makeup of the school, last time it was a 61-39 split between Romney and Obama. Same went the same way. So like it's interesting. Now we can compare data from 4 years ago to this time when we did.
How much do you guys get into like explaining the electoral votes and the popular vote? Did you explain much to the kids? That's confusing as an
the
adult.
PowerPoint is pretty extensive. We had 45 minutes, which is quite a bit of time to explain all this, and we did watch 2 videos on the electoral system.
Oh.
We made sure to really hit
Well,
on
that's
that,
good.
because that's a really controversial and important topic now. So.
And before that too, all the students were prepped, Scholastic News does a great election booklet, so it's about like 25 pages that goes through everything you can imagine, from electoral college to how much money does the president make, to like they use scenarios of like what celebrities are they eligible to run for office because if they're old enough, or what state they're from, so that all of the students that they were walking into a classroom already had been prepped with this election booklet, and they had done that in my class also. So they had a baseline, and obviously we're learning about this at a way higher level than they're teaching it to the students. But they were prepped and the students were prepped so that they could take it up to the next level.
Did staff vote?
No.
You want to explain?
Oh, geez. Well, there were rumors that staff were allowed to vote, and a lot of staff members came to vote, and it was kind of obnoxious because they can actually vote, and it was kind of annoying because we tried to just do the student body, and they were coming in, but it's all good. All wonder under the bridge. It was a misrumor. It's all good. We understand.
Are you saying teachers are annoying? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
not at all. Absolutely.
The
But
situation
I'm
was
just saying the whole
annoying.
situation. It was like we had like what 7 or so teachers come and say, "Can we vote?" And we were like, "No, we're trying to get this to."
So you also had to deal with misinformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which happens all the time. So we did get that
Yeah.
deal with the situation.
Pretty comprehensive lesson.
Absolutely.
The other aspect of this, that is definitely not information we want published out there of how our staff voted one way or another. Because a big point that we push, and all of them can tell you that, in our classroom, it is talking about the details of how the election process works, and it is my job to teach them how to think, not what to think, when it comes down to it. Never will you see them saying that we're pushing things one way or another. They have the right to believe whatever they want to, and we focus on what the actual facts are and how the process works. And we made all of the students that I saw teaching were doing it like that. And there was a few times where they had to shut things down of like, this candidate is better than that candidate. And that's not what we're here to do. We're here to educate, to make sure that people understand what the candidate's stances are and how the process works. What people ultimately decide is their own decision. So you guys did a very good job with that. But just as far as the teachers voting and the possibility of that being published out there, that is not a road we want to go down. You would all be hearing about it, so because it's just not something you want to put on paper. So.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was one of the main concerns of the election, was keeping it as neutral as possible.
Yeah.
Well, just looking at the numbers, you got a great turnout.
Yeah.
Every kid that was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything was
Some people opted out,
Some of
but
the teachers. Yep.
most of them.
So this is the results from the other things that were up for debate, other than presidential positions. So we obviously see who won here. Chris Conte, who was the fake candidate?
Funny.
Craig
The
Nelson.
funny thing
Craig
was.
Nelson. Where's Craig Nelson? Over here? Or over
Craig
there?
Nelson.
Craig Nelson's right there.
Purple.
That wasn't even a real person. So we kind of put that out there to gauge how, if they were actually educated on their vote. And this one, we kind of had to focus on the presidential election because we did have 45 minutes of time. We were able to explain the presidential election really well, but we did kind of have to focus on that one. So we couldn't really focus on every single party of every single race.
But it was quite interesting to see that people's lack of knowledge, that you have 100 people voted for a candidate that does not exist. So when we go through and we do this, in a way, we almost sidestep the whole process of teaching about these House and Senate races, just for the fact that that is the experience of the average American voter. I think that they walk in and they're like, ooh, I gotta vote for the president today, and then they're like, oh, what's all this other stuff that I'm voting for today? So we set that up the same just to see, and when you're looking at it, it's 20-some percentage of people voted for somebody that's not even running. And you would have to figure too, students are pretty involved in this, they're being taught it in school, so what is the average American like compared to that? So I just think it gives a good insight into what the average American is thinking.
Another big thing that you might be wondering is why we put a fake person into House Representative or something that we didn't focus on as much as the presidential part of the election. That's because we felt like with the two candidates that were running this year, we didn't want them to be outvoted by a fake.
Yeah, not with the president one. You're exactly
A
right.
little bit too overwhelming, I think.
Yeah.
You maybe real quick want to tell them about like how you had to deal with the third party issue there, why you did that, because that was a big question that a lot of people asked us about, and we're a little upset maybe.
Yeah, we had to dodge around the third party vote because where did we really stop? Because you have a lot of third party runners, a lot of write-ins, so we kind of had to stop it at the two because that's what we could educate the most about. We we want to educate them, primarily on this, rather than someone that probably isn't going to win and is way, in this list of many names. That's kind of
Yeah, there's
where
over,
would we
we're
stop as the-
150 people running for president. So do you stop at 2? Do you stop at 3, 4, 5? Like the one guy, Exotic Joe. Do we talk about him?
So we
Middle-aged man with a mullet that owns lions and tigers at his farm. Like, do we say we have to teach everybody about him too? So that's why that was stopped right there. And they can also tell you too, the amount of time it took us to come up with an unbiased poster about 2 candidates, let alone 4 or 10 like that. It was definitely not in the cards.
We thought it best just to keep it to the 2 primary parties. So. And here are some of our results. We had the questions at the end of the voting. So we thought, do you feel voting is an effective way to voicing your opinion? And we found that yes, it is. Most students feel that way.
Yeah, this graph is how people felt regarding their education process. So 82 of them felt like they were educated properly, and 18 of them lied as they voted for Craig Nelson.
Yep.
But no, it's very interesting to see how people respond to questions like that. It doesn't seem very important, but it is in an election. It's the fate of the country.
Disregard this, then it might screw up our polls. So for this, we asked where the main source of information each student, got their information about how they voted, and we found that definitely the media was the overwhelming, mostly 46%. That's quite significant, and we found schools 30% and 24% family, which is kind of crazy because we did go in to the classes and educate them specifically on this election. So.
Can you talk about media? Did you separate it out between social media or?
We said general media, including, I would say, including TV or, any like Facebook or anything like that.
And traditionally, like the way we learn it, like through our textbook, is that family is the #1 indicator of political socialization. So this is actually, we were very curious about, has this trend changed over time when we're looking at this? So the family has been the mainstay. Is media as a whole becoming more important on people's views than family? So that kind of points to that it might be.
And this is after our entire election, so we realized that could have possibly can tell them to work on for the next election in 4 years. One is to improve the communication between classes, because if they do have 60 students spread across 3 classes, it's going to need to be a lot better communication-wise. Utilizing the technology, we had 3 or 4 kids that were really like the technology kind of people. Dustin, Peter, Kyle being some of the examples, and if for some odd reason they wouldn't have been able to be there for one of the periods, it would crash. And time management, as Daryl spoke about earlier, if we didn't meet these deadlines, we would have fallen behind, and the election our mock election was set on a specific day, and if we fell behind, we couldn't really change it. So.
We had time class to work on it, but if you didn't finish something inside class, you work on outside class, and more people work on it outside class and in class. So like some things were like time management, we need to use our class time more just a little bit.
Good job.
Excellent.
I have one. I think I heard someone say that you would be doing this again in 4 years. Have you thought about doing this for midterm elections?
Not it. It's a very long, stressful process. We would consider it. We'll
It
say
takes
I'll
up a
consider
lot
it.
of time.
All right.
It's a great project. Really.
Are any of you guys 18?
Maybe next month.
You're unable to vote.
Yep.
Not my first election.
I was if you were 18, I was going to ask. I would never ask who did you vote for. I would have asked did you vote, and I would have hoped the answer to that will be absolutely.
I did see a
So.
lot of, I worked the polls that morning, and I did see a lot of Geneseo Central students who were 18 going through the polls before school in time to make it on time to school. So that was good. And they were
very responsible and good job.
Yep, don't lose that passion.
It was a very great project. Mr.
Outstanding.
K really did
Yeah,
a great
he
job,
That's
you know.
something you guys
We gotta give,
did.
I mean, we did a lot of the work, but he really did help us, and he did quite a bit.
Not only
To
that,
help us and
it's-
guide us in the right
It's
direction.
his teaching too, he makes everything unbiased.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, it's
It
he
was
tells
really
you
hard.
true facts from
As
both
we know.
sides, so there's no bias.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
When I say I stop to read the posters, and I have to tell you, sometimes when I see political posters up in school, I approach it with a little bit of trepidation, because it's like, oh my gosh, you know, you're just looking for that statement that somebody put on there that's like, oh, you can't do that. These were impeccable. I'm really, I was so impressed with that, and I didn't realize this was the class that did it, you know, until later that you know, it kind of fell into place, but.
And we kept going through, like, so we would get one together and we would have each class look at it and make changes, and then we even send it over. Any of the students that are not with me in AP Government are in participation in government. So when we had our final draft, we sent it over to the participation in government kids, have a fresh set of eyes to say, is there anything on here that, and most people know of kids in both camps of saying, are you okay with this? And it's from both sides, and that's what we ended up with at the end. And it was very difficult too, because when you look at it, even the amount of words you put on a poster, we found that there was inherent bias in there. If the policy was real long, it's like, well, this person doesn't know what's going on there. So we had to tweak it so that the actual number of words were very similar. And it started out with these really long blurbs, and by the time we were done, it's like 6 words. So like 6 words here, 6 words here, go with that. Because it's a very difficult process.
All that it is.
Are you glad it's over?
Yes. Yeah. The other thing too is, for me, it's a way to go through and work on my own management skills. I've never been in charge of 60, 17-year-olds at once, and that is quite the job skill to have there. And they pulled it off in the end. They will tell you that there was times where I was a little nervous about the whole process, but I will say the last thing is that when it came down to it, the way that the election ran on the day of, and the skills that they put forth and the effort that they did in teaching was remarkable. I was proud of all of them, and I don't give compliments away. So I told them, you all drive me crazy, but I'm proud of you. So that's about the best you're gonna get.
Well done.
Yeah, it's late.
Well done.
Thanks
Thank you
again.
all.
Thank you.